Brigadier Kininda threatened Warrant Officer Makubo because Makubo was investigating docket 275. Docket 275 is the docket that implicates the people that were in the house, the likes of Longotwala and so on. But listen to Susomi, you are giving us background information, and then we'll talk about the evidence of this week. Danko.
Hey, I'm very disappointed here by what the SAPS is doing. Last week on the 24th of September, I heard some rumors that Warrant Officer Makubo was receiving threats from Brigadier Kininda. Brigadier Kininda is the one who is investigating my brother's case, a murder case 636 of 10/2014. And Warrant Officer Makubo is the one who is investigating the second docket, case 375, which is defeating the ends of justice. I then called Makubo and asked him about this. He confirmed that he received a call. He received a call from General Kadwa. General Kadwa is the head of Hawks in Gauteng. Kadwa said he was informed by Brigadier Kininda to tell Makuba that he must withdraw from case 375. Makuba is the one who is a complainant on that docket, and that surprised me. And then I decided to call the Minister of Police, General Cele, Minister Cele, and then I called General Libya. I called National Commissioner. National Commissioner responded and they said that he was going to call Kininda and Makubo, but the other two, they didn't respond. And then I decided to send them messages. And then General Pogani, who is the secretary of the minister, she responded and said they are going to deal with this matter. But when I called Makuba yesterday, today is the 5th, I called him on the 4th, he said no one has called him about this matter. And I'm very disappointed. And Makubo's life is in danger. Because...
Hey, tada! We are back with another video. This week, yet again, another witness says the police tortured him in order to get a statement. Remember that Sumadla Nkosi came to court and told the court that the police phoned him a false pretense, and then he was taken to Yeoville where he was questioned. And later it transpired that it's in relation to the Mewa case. Okay, it's fine. And then they said to him he did something wrong by providing toiletries to accused number 4, which is Ulo Mapisa. And then they questioned him about one dance. But the crux of this evidence is that the police forced him to say things that he did not want to say. And then that statement was eventually obtained by the police. And he's not the first witness to complain about the same thing. Remember the case of Ubaba Mzungu. He also came to court and told us the same thing, that Kininda and his crew, they took him to Mpumalanga where they eventually forced him to sign that statement which said he heard from Umbexelen Ntanzi about Umusibi and Mwantanzi's involvement in the Moyo case, and Kininda threatened him, and then he signed that statement under duress. And then later on, Kininda also promised him a trip overseas if he implicated Mwantanzi no Musibi. But fortunately, Ubaba Mzungu refused in the end. So now Umadla Nkosi comes to court and tells us the same thing. The same thing that was told by, remember, Umakosonke. Umakosonke is the same one that came to court and also told us the same thing, that the police phoned him and said there's something about a rape case that he was involved in, whereas he was never involved in any case. And later on, they forced him to implicate some of the accused before court. So you see, the state case is built around false confessions and false statements, because the same happened to Mwantanzi and Musibiya. They were both forced and tortured to confess, which is why we have three confessions that are before court that were provisionally accepted by Judge Rata. But we know for the fact that those confessions are lies. So now, if I am a judge in this case, I should ask myself, ukuthi indaba ukuthi bonke labantu that are coming as defense witnesses were somehow tortured or forced to sign a statement. What does it tell you about Brigadier Geninda and his team? Because it cannot be that all these people are lying about being forced. It cannot be. Clearly, there's some truth into this. Because even if you look at the confession of Muzibiya, he was driven around all night long until he signed the confession in the morning. You ask yourself, what was he doing all night long? Clearly, the police were busy torturing him and cooking him so that he's softened and then he's weak so that he eventually confesses. So that is the operas operandi of Brigadier Geninda and his crew to get confession. Remember, even in the case of Urotavan Krecha, one of the accused told the court that Brigadier Geninda and his team, they tried to get a confession from him. They offered him money. I think it was about 3 million, the same amount that was offered to Mwantans. So you cannot have different individuals saying that they offered money for confession and also have similar witnesses like Abo Makosonke, Omandla Nkosi, Absalom Zung saying that they were tortured and forced to sign a confession. Clearly, Brigadier Geninda had no case here. The only way he could obtain evidence was to force witnesses to say whatever that he wanted to hear from them. Which is why we ended up with the 5 accused before court being charged for the Mayor case. But clearly, there's no case here. If there was a case, then the state would have substantial witness that implicates these guys, would have fingerprints, DNA, and eyewitness that can tell us that they saw these guys at the or nearby the Mayor, near the Kumal household. But such evidence does not exist. The only person that does that provides an eyewitness account is Tabang Makeleni, who is no more. But you can tell that the evidence of Makeleni was also cooked because he said he saw 2 men running out of the house, but it was at night. But Makeleni surprisingly could see their facial features. He could see that someone had a gold tooth. He could see, he could identify how old was Ntanzi and so on. Clearly, that statement was cooked by the police in order to implicate Ntanzi and Nkandla Mngcubo. That's it. There is no proper scientific evidence that links these guys before court. So next week, Ramusipilo indicated that he'll bring another witness. He said he's trying to subpoena a police officer. I suspect that the police officer that he's referring to, it is Warrant Officer Makubo, because Makubo played an integral role in this case because he is the one that opened docket 5 alongside Joseph Tellis. So it could be Makubo or Joseph Tellis, I don't know, but I'm hoping that it's one of them because they will help the defense to debunk all these lies by Brigadier Geninda and his cronies. It's clear that they had no case. They implicated these men before court just to get evidence so that they can solve the Mayo case and then tell the family that there is justice. Whereas there's no justice. Justice will only be obtained once Docket 275 is before court, and then the likes of Longotwala and everyone that was in the house are charged for defeating the ends of justice and for culpable homicide. That's it. In this current docket, there's no evidence. The Ubaloyi, he had an opportunity to bring all these guys that were in the house, like Omama Kelly, Kelly Kumalo, as well as to interview Inganega Kelly Kumalo, but Kelly Kumalo refused when the psychologist requested to speak to Ingana Kelengane Lega Jup. So we can see Gucci, everything was suppressed in this case because they only wanted to implicate other people. If they say they brought Kelly Kumalo to court and come and testify, we would have had more clarity on what happened because we were told that some people ran out and some ran into the bedroom and so on. So the only 2 people that were left in the house or nearby Senzo, I think kwakuyena Kelly Kumalo. So if she was brought to court, I'm sure she would have told the court what she saw from her angle or from her point of view. So now if you deprive us of such witness, clearly it shows what you are lying about this whole incident. This case was cooked from the beginning to the end. Firstly, the projectile or the bullet that shot Senzo was found on the following day, not on the actual day when Senzo was shot. The police searched the house on that Sunday and found no bullets, but Umlingo on the following day, which was a Monday, they found Inhlavu Obala behind a glass jar. It was laying there to be seen. Clearly, it was planted there. I suspect it was one of those police officers that came on the following day. We know that I'm supposed to say a cool Monday because they had created this theory of the intruder. So they had a chance to think, okay, let's find the bullets and put it there at the crime scene in the morning. Because remember that Shadrack Sibiya had a meeting at about 9:10 after Senzo was shot and unalived. So Sibiya only arrived in the crime scene. He called those people that were in the house and adjourned and presided over a meeting in the house, which was an actual crime scene. And in that meeting, it is alleged that that is where the theory of the mastermind or the intruder was created. So we know for a fact that Sibiya met with Chico Twala later on after some weeks or months after it was shot. They met and they discussed something. And you ask yourself, what do you know about discuss that? Because they are not colleagues, they are not friends, they are not in the same industry. Clearly, it was all about protecting Ulongo Twala because we were told by Mnuzo Hlophe via a statement that Tumana Madlala phoned him and said Senzo was shot allegedly by Ulongo Twala ngephutha when Senzo was trying to separate the fight between them, between Zandi and Longo. So we know Sibiya played a huge role in this case. So I wouldn't be surprised with that bullet jacket that they found on Monday. Sibiya had something to do with it. It was planted there to implicate any other guys except those that were in the crime scene during the time when Senzo was shot. So it is vitally important that Docket 275 is interrogated in order to see what the information collected by Warato Makubo and Joseph Telizi is legit or not. If it's not, then it's fine. But if you just close the docket and ignore the evidence that is contained there, it shows that you've got something to hide or you're trying to protect somebody. Because you cannot ignore statement Sigabani something in Slope because it says Longotwala is the one that shot Senzo ngephutha. So okay, Ramsipile said he's going to subpoena police officers that were involved in this case. I think it's Makubo and Utilities. So we'll see to Ulona or Ramsipile Spatelin. But the evidence here this week just similar to the one that was told by uMakhosonke, Absolute Mzungu, and Nabo accused 1 and 2 because they're all tortured and forced to make a statement. That is the only way that the state was able to obtain evidence. Just torture, duress, and that's it. Abana evidence ailing at these guys to the crime scene, whether it's DNA, fingerprints, and so on. And even Ilantole, telephone records, Kakadla Mncube, who's accused number 3, it showed that his cell phone pinged at around Johannesburg CBD at around the same time when Senzo was shot. So it shows that Gadla cannot be at Phosphorus at the time when Senzo was shot. So if Gadla is not the shooter, then these guys before court are also innocent because we were told by the state that these guys acted in common purpose in the deletion of Senzo Menywa. So if they acted in common purpose, if one of them is exonerated, like Gadla is being excluded by his cell phone record, it shows that because you cannot be in Phosphorus and be in Johannesburg CBD at the same time. So in actual fact, I think when his case starts, he's going to have the easiest case because he is helped by his telephone record, which shows that he was not in the crime scene. And accused number 4 told the court via his lawyer that at all material times he was with Gadla Mncube. So Pisa, if he says he was with Gadla, then it shows that now we're at the crime scene. We were told that accused number 4 was the lookout guy and accused number 5 was the driver in that getaway car. But if evidence that Gadla says Gadla was not at the crime scene, then the court has no option but to acquit all these guys, because scientific evidence that you cannot dispute shows that Gadla was not there. And then scientific evidence also showed that these guys were not at the crime scene, because the DNA expert came to court and said, my lord, the DNA sample taken from the house exclude all 5 men from being the donors of the DNA, meaning that they were not at the crime scene. So the state has no case. The defense has created enough reasonable doubt for these guys to be acquitted. But Baloyi failed to call all witnesses that were in the house because he knew that they were going to contradict each other, because if you lie, sometimes you forget your lies. So Baloyi knew very well that, Magakeli and Olongotwala might forget some of the lies that they planned with Shadrack Sibiya allegedly. So he only called 3 witnesses that were in the house. He called Utumela Madlala, Uzandi, and Umthosi Sithwala. The rest were just left out for some reasons unknown to us. Why? Clearly, Baloyi knew very well that no, it's not in the best interest of his docket, because maybe Ulongotwala was going to spill the beans and tell the truth, because we know that Ulongotwala, he is in and out of rehab, so he's not stable currently. So he might confess and then put Baloyi's case in charges and tell the truth and say, my lord, yes, I am the one that came to the crime scene with a gun, and I was under influence of drugs and so on, and I shot Senzomi Wangeput. I'm just saying it's a possibility, because Longwe currently is not stable. So he may not be able to withstand the pressure from the defense when they ask, Uti Longwe, tell us the truth, what happened on the day? And Baloyi Funds is a loser from Longotwala, because every time when Longotwala's name is being mentioned in court, Baloyi is quick to defend him as if he is the lawyer for Longotwala, but we shall see ukuthi kwenzakalani.
Kusiyona kodwa hayi ukuthi uvimbe ukuthi asingaqhubeki.
Kusenkantolo ngeke ngasho naphambilini ukuthi ngesikhathi ngibhalile istatement uGinindi eYuvo. Cela kusenkantolo ibhekele nami isayidi lami.
I said this before, my lord, that at the time when the statement was written by Gininda at Yeovil, my lord, I'm going to request that the court also considers my side as well. Yebo?
Gininda akaze nginike chance ukuthi ngifunde statement.
Gininda never gave me time or a chance to read the statement.
Wangisayina ngokuphoqeleka.
He made me to sign forcefully so.
Number 2, ngesikhathi ngibizwa eThingland ngibizwa uBabaloyi. Ngaphinde ngamtshela futhi akusiyo statement sami lesi.
And secondly, when he called me saying that Mr. Baloyi wanted to see me or would like to see me, I told him again that this was not my statement.
Wathi masisilungise ngoba sifuna umphathi wakhe.
He then said, let us rectify it because his superior wanted it.
Saphala umzuzu omncane sithi no asivale siyashaya isikhathi umphathi wakhe abadinga ngaso.
It then wrote for a very short time, and then my lord, he finished and said that time was against him. That is now the time his superior wanted him.
Mangifika kuBabaloyi, the first paragraph namanje kuseyiyo le. Wathi angifundise Babaloyi akusisi statement engimbhalo ngawubhala lo.
When I got to Mr. Baloyi, the first paragraph that was read out, I then said, Mr. Baloyi, this is not the statement. When the first paragraph was read out,
angiqedanga 5 minutes wathi angihlale ku-waiting room.
It was not even 5 minutes, my lord, that I finished there. He then requested me to go and wait to the waiting room.
Angiphinde angabonana naye Babaloyi until now sesibona manje lapha ekhona.
I never saw Mr. Baloyi again up until now as we now see each other here in court.
Ngalezo zizathu lezo angisakuboni mina izizathu mhlawumbe singasithi siqhubeke ngembhalo le mbhalo yokusuka yokuqala istatement lo mbhalo la ngakhala ngawo from eqaleni uGinindi nakubabaloyi.
I do not see, my lord, that we then can proceed with this statement, my lord, based on what is written in the first paragraph, which is what I complained of to Brigadier Kininda, I also complained of to Mr. Baloyi, my lord.
No, I'm going to stop you now.
Okay.
I'm going to stop you now. I'm the one who's asking questions. Your complaint is on record. Even yesterday you had the same complaint. Let's go through the statement.
Imina obuza-ke imibuzo isikhalo sakho lokhu okhala ngabo ukwirekhodi kukhona manje kuphambi kwenkantolo kurekhodiwe laphayana nayizolo futhi ukushilo lokhu okushoyo manje asiqhubeke-ke
shuthi mnumzana mkhosi enkantolo ngicela ukuze shuthi mina uma ngifundela into engayazi la nkosi enkantolo kufuna ngiyemukele anginayi right yokuthi lokho angikwazi uba ngimdala kangaka nje ngikhuluma into eyiphutha.
As old as I am, does it then mean now that I do not have a right when I am mentioning something or complaining about something? Should I then accept or allow for something which is incorrect to be read out to me?
Nkosi enkantolo ngicela ukuthi nami ngizizwe ngifree ngoba ngimdala kangaka nje ngiyoqeda u50 ngingacindezelwa engathi ngumntwana ngicindezelwe ngento engibonayo ukuthi akuyona baba ngicela usebenze ngokomthetho sisekelo ngokomsebenzi osenza ngaphansi kwawo ngiyacabanga umsebenzi umsebenzi nepolice yakho.
Sorry, you are a witness in this case.
Ufakazi kulelo cala.
Are you not?
Awusiyena?
Mina ngufakazi ngotanzi ukuthi uhlala kimi.
I am a witness with regards to Ntanzi that you are staying with me.
Yeah, but you're a witness.
Yebo kodwa ufakazi. Noma uze la enkantolo njengofakazi asisho kanjalo. Uze njengofakazi la enkantolo.
Okay, engivuma nkosi enkantolo.
Yes, my lord, I agree.
Yes, so continue being a witness. You've taken an oath to tell this court the truth, nothing else but the truth, as you have been doing. If Kininda, like you say, beat you up and Mapena also